I don't know exactly how to start this video. Like, in this video you'll see how it works inside of my head. Try 57 of getting my life back together. Come and colour some pretty boxes with me. Or just like, hello and welcome to a video about the things that I have done and also the things that I have aggressively not done and whether I ever intend to do them or not. It's Leanne and welcome back to another video. There are mild to large amounts of trepidation in my voice right now because I am about to unveil my shame. Today we're going to talk about my series tracker spreadsheet, and not only are we going to talk about it, but I'm going to show you how bad it is. Rip me. And once I have finished showing you just how long it is, we're going to chop it by like half. Decisions have to be made, people. I mean, we're several many years off the midlife crisis stage at this point, but when we get there, I want my admin to at least be in order. So it's easier for me to go more fully off the rails. Okay, let's just do it. So for those of you who don't know, at the beginning of 2023, I finally started my very own reading spreadsheet. The spreadsheet itself is very much the subject for another video because, oh wow, being confronted with so many stats about yourself on a daily basis is certainly an eye-opener. But one of the tabs on this spreadsheet is my series tracker. I'd never had one before, and so I thought it would be super interesting if I put all of the books and series that I owned in my own house into this spreadsheet to see how my progressing with series was getting along. Spoiler, oftentimes it was not getting along. In fact, oftentimes it had just got along and left. You can find it vacationing somewhere with my mojo and my get up and go, where they are undoubtedly on their third margarita. That being said, as mildly depressing as the activity of putting all of this books into this spreadsheet was, it was also kind of good for my brain. It turns out that having all of this information in the one spot makes it a hell of a lot easier to decide what to do with it. Because although I am a huge champion of the DNF, the ability to put down any book at all, at any point in that book, whether it be on the first 5 pages or the last 5 pages or after you have invested 55 pages, and just say, nah, I'm not enjoying that, it's not for me, and throw it in an unhaul pile. The problem that I find with series is that often if I have actually finished the first book, is because I enjoyed it enough to get all of the way to the end, which suggests that I will probably enjoy the next one in the series. I say suggest because sometimes this has not been the case. But overall, for the majority of books, if I have finished a whole book in the series, I usually want to go on to the next one, and I may in fact own it. Because my brain does this amazing thing when I'm at mid-book peak of enjoyment where I'm like, oh my god, this is so good, you should buy the next one right now. And then that way, when you finish this one, you can just go right on to that one, because obviously you're going to want to. Note to self, this almost never works. I almost never want to. Please stop doing it. It is financially not viable for continuing existence. And so what we're going to do in this video is go through my series spreadsheet series by series. You may want to get yourself a beverage or a blanket, maybe a comfy footstool, and we are going to make logical and conscious decisions about what we are going to do with each of those series, which means assessing whether we have the time, energy and motivation to continue with them or not, or whether we need to honestly just decide that we no longer give a crap and it's time to let things go. I don't know how I get myself into these things. Okie dokie, let's just dive on in. Here is my series tracker. Oh, and don't be concerned if my laptop sounds like at any point it's going to spontaneously combust. It's just that I'm asking it to record my face and also to record the screen, and like me, it doesn't actually have that many spoons on any given day. So as you will be able to see from my spreadsheet, first of all we have the series title, the author, then the vague genre, the audience that it's supposedly intended for, and then a status tab. I wish my life had a status tab with a handy dandy little drop down so that people could just be like, oh, today she's feeling like that. But alas, I have to rely on facial expressions instead. Anyway, in this status tab we have a drop down for series complete, series ongoing, series DNF, series not started, or series complete published. And the reason that we have this bottom one, series complete published, is because sometimes the publishing industry is horrible to us. Sometimes I will have read up to the end of an announced series and we don't know if we're going to get other books in it, so I have effectively completed it. And other times that series is something like Game of Thrones, where we know for a fact that there are future books planned for that series, but it's not on me that I haven't read them yet. So as you'll also be able to see, I do have the status tab filtered, and that is because I've taken out all of the series that I haven't yet started. Today we are only going to deal with series that I have made some progress in. So let us begin. Alright, first up, let's just start by working out how many series we're actually talking about here. 94. The corner of my spreadsheet that you cannot see says 94. So there are 94 separate series that we have to go through. I had better talk quicker than I've ever talked in my entire little Scottish life. Alright, first up on my spreadsheet I have got the Hunger Games. Now I have read the original series of this, as you can see, the first 3 books. However, I have absolutely zero intention of ever reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. My enjoyment of this original series actually goes down per book anyway. It was at this point that I realised that I had Susan Collins and not Suzanne Collins on this spreadsheet. I wonder how many other little errors my ADHD brain has made that is going to annoy us throughout this video. Anyway, I don't think it's my fault that I don't want to read a companion book in a series that I'd already finished. So I am going to say that this is series complete, and I hope that I pick the right colours for each of these. Oh, next up we have The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland series by Catherine M. Valente. Back in the day, this was such a huge booktube series. I have read the first book and the second book in this series multiple times, but to my shame I have never actually finished it. I've picked up book 4 a bunch of times and for some reason I've just never managed to get through it. However, I do really want to finish this series, even if that does necessitate a reread now because I've forgot a lot of the details of it. Okay, so we are going to mark this as series ongoing. I'm definitely going to come back to it at some point. Next up we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Oh, in the second book we do actually have a title for Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. And I think we're getting that one in 2024. So I am going to mark this one as series complete published because I have read all of the published books from it and it is not my fault that I do not have the next one. Next up we have got The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. Now this one was a difficult one for me. I set up this spreadsheet at the start of the year, and when I was entering it into the spreadsheet I was like, do I mark the books as read up until the point where I have read, which is all the way up until the last trilogy and I think the companion novellas, or because I am mid reread, do I mark the books as read up until the point I am in my reread? So as you can see, I decided to go with the second one as a motivator for me, and I have marked all of the books in this series past the point that I have got to in my reread as unread. It was incredibly painful, but I actually think it's going to work out better for my brain. So this is definitely series ongoing. So next up we have the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. Now, I read the first book in this series for the start of Wheel of Time Along, which Becca and Susan and a lot of other really lovely people are hosting, because I thought if I'm ever going to actually give this series a go, maybe now when there's a big read along is the time to do it. But I read the first book and I just liked it. Like, it was a good book, but it was nothing revolutionary. There were parts in it that really annoyed me. There were other parts in it where I'm like, oh god, I wish more of the book was this. As you can see from my spreadsheet, like a 14 book series. So, okay. For right now, I'm going to say it's a series DNF, and that's the good thing about this spreadsheet and any kind of tracking, is that I can decide at another time that I have changed my mind. But for right now, I am going to say that I'm not progressing on with it. Alright, next up we have Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, and again, as we can see on my spreadsheet, I have read all of the books that are currently released in the series. We are still waiting for Silverborn, so I'm going to say that this one is series complete published. The Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, I am pleased to say that I have read all of and of course absolutely loved. So that is a series complete one to me. Next up, we've got the Heroes of Olympus series. Now, as you can see, I have only read the first 3 out of this 5-book series. I don't really know what happened. I don't have an explanation for you. I just didn't. It could have been that thing where I was rationing myself and keeping the last 2 books for like a feel-good point in the future. Who knows? That is past Leanne's damage. But this one is going to get marked as a series ongoing. Okay, so next up we have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. So as you will be able to see from this, I read the first in the Shadow and Bone trilogy last year, maybe it was the year before, and I really enjoyed it. But the problem was that as soon as I said on my channel that I was reading this series, I got absolutely bombarded by opinions and also by spoilers. So I don't know what to do. Okay, I think if I'm really honest with myself, it's really far down my priority list, and I don't think I want to unhaul the books, because if I ever decide at some point that I want to read them in the future, then that would be dumb and I would have to repurchase them. But I do think I'm going to say that this one is a DNF, because I don't think that I'm going to pick it up anytime soon. Oh, okay, so the next one is the Nevernight Chronicles, and weirdly that's kind of the same situation. I really love the Illuminae series by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Like, I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite series of all time. But I really don't love Amy's writing individually, and it turns out that I don't really love Jay Kristoff's writing individually either, and so although I read and really liked Nevernight, I've never been particularly compelled to pick up the other books in the series, even though they exist on my shelves already. And that, in combination with a bunch of things that I've heard people say about this series over the last couple of years, just makes me less inclined to read it. So this is going to be a series DNF. Okay, next up, Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Now, although my colour coding here does say that I have read the first book and I haven't read the second 2, that's because last year I again optimistically started a reread of these books, and I got halfway through Days of Blood and Starlight, which is the second book, and then just didn't keep going. So when I came to colour coding the right side of this spreadsheet with whether I had or hadn't read it, I decided to go with the same colour coding that I've used for the Robin Hobb books in order to force me to be motivated to pick it up, because I actually do really love this series. Again, it's another huge nostalgia series for me. Okay, next up we have got the Seven Waters series by Juliet Marillier. As you will be able to see from my spreadsheet, I have read Daughter of the Forest, Son of the Shadows and Child of the Prophecy, which is the first 3, so the first trilogy. But then she brought out Heir of Seven Waters, Seer of Seven Waters and Flame of Seven Waters, which is a second trilogy, which are kind of like companion books, and I never ever got around to those, even though again they exist on my shelves. That is definitely a series ongoing though. I absolutely love Juliet Marillier. Next up we have the Memoirs of Lady Trent series by Marie Brennan. I have read all of these books, but I am mid-reread with them with lovely spouse Harry. So I have read the first 3 out loud to him again, and we now need to do In the Labyrinth of Drakes. In reality, the only one that I actually haven't read is this one, but it is hopefully going to motivate us to pick up more books. Okay, so next up we have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I did love Legends and Lattes. I don't love that we're getting a sequel. I don't have a lot of confidence that I'm going to love this prequel, but I am hopeful that I will be proved wrong. Oh look! Next up, one of the series that I was talking about. This is the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones. So again, as you can see from my spreadsheet, I have read everything that is currently out, and realistically in my lifetime that's probably all that I'm ever going to read. Okay, next up we have the Graceling Realm books by Kristen Kishore. I have read the original trilogy for this, but I never did get around to Winterkeep, and now there is another book, Sea Sparrow, so those are unread. And this is effectively an ongoing series, whether I like it or not. Next up we have got the Burning Kingdom series by Tasha Suri. I have read and really enjoyed The Jasmine Throne, and I own the Oleander Sword. And I don't think the third book has actually got a title yet, so yeah, this is an ongoing series. I'm excited for it to be an ongoing series, but at the same time. Next up we've got Magic of the Lost by C.L. Clarke. This is the exact same situation as The Jasmine Throne. Actually, I read and really enjoyed The Unbroken. I don't actually own The Faithless yet, and there is another one in this series coming, so this is going to be another ongoing series. Oh, okay, so next up we have got Rook and Rose by M.A. Carrick, which is actually a writing team. It is Marie Brennan and another author whose name I'll put here, who I can never remember. I gave it, I think, a 3-star, and I don't honestly know if I want to carry on with this series. It feels like sacrilege to actually say that, because I liked the first one fine, and I think it really does have the potential to get a lot better as it keeps going and you get more bedded into the world, but it also just didn't excite me very much. Oh, that is actually physically painful. I do not like it, but I think I need to be very honest with myself. Ooh, next up we have the First Law books by Joe Abercrombie. Again, I have read the first trilogy in this series, Blade Itself, Before They Were Hanged, and Last Argument of Kings, and I absolutely love them. However, I have not read any of the other books in this series. And one of the reasons that I haven't is because I don't really feel like this series particularly needed any follow-up books in it. When I finished the trilogy, I felt like the trilogy was very like self-contained. I felt like I was fine with what I had learned there, and I just didn't feel particularly motivated to pick up any of the other books. And knowing also that some of the other books in this series, which you do have to read in order to carry on the thread, are actually like short story collections, and you know guys, I hate short story collections. They're just not my thing at all. Okay, I think for right now this series is also going to be a DNF for me, because I don't own any of the other books in the series, so it doesn't really make sense for me to keep it as like an ongoing series. Oh, another one that makes me really sad. This is the Band series by Nicholas Ames. It starts with Kings of the Wild, then goes on to Bloody Rose, and again Outlaw Empire hasn't been published yet. I loved Kings of the Wild. It is essentially really soft boys loving each other, even though they are like grizzly big burly men in their like 50s and 60s now. And it was just on the surface everything that I wanted, but I did have a lot of pacing issues with it. There were quite a few things in there which I was just like, I could have done without that, or again, I wanted more of this other thing, and I am not going to be continuing along with him, I'm afraid. Do I really have to say anything about this series? So this is not quite series complete as published, because The Slow Regard of Silent Things is still unread, but I'm still going to mark it as that because I don't intend on reading any more until he actually publishes things. So yeah, least said soonest mended about that, I think. So next we have the Ryuria Revelation series, which until I had put it on this spreadsheet was a series that I hadn't actually thought about in a good number of years. So Michael J. Sullivan obviously now has new series out, none of which I have read, but a lot of people are just starting to get into him and his books, and I got into him back when the original series were published in the big bind-ups. And I have read Theft of Swords, Rise of Empire, and Heir of Noveron, which are all three of them massive bind-ups of like 2 shorter novels in each, and I really loved them. However, I have not read The Crown Tower, The Rose and the Thorn, The Death of Dolgath, which are the 3 books which are prequels to this series, and I have not read or even had heard of until I set up this spreadsheet The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter, which doesn't have a T in it. I think I'm going to mark this as series complete because I think I've read everything that I actually want to read in this series, and I may reread them, but I doubt that I'm going to continue on after that. Next up, a completely joyful series for me, the Belgariad universe. The first 5 books are the Belgariad, the second 5 books are the Malorion, and I have read all of them many times, including the 3 companion novels, so I can joyfully mark that as series complete, although I really need to reread those books, like, really badly. So next up is the Garlic series by Brie Paulson. This is a graphic novel series. I have read Garlic and the Vampire and Garlic and the Vampire and Garlic and the Witch, and I really loved them, but there isn't a next book announced in the series. I don't know if there is any plans for Brie Paulson to bring out any more, so this one is effectively series complete, whether I like it or not, and in this case I aggressively am on the side of not. I would really like more books in that series. And then we have the Tea Dragon Society series. I have read the first 2 and I was lovingly gifted with the last one from the lovely Charlotte for my Christmas, but I have not read it yet, so this is series ongoing. Next up we have got the Spiderwick Chronicles, which are technically a series of 5 original books and then 3 follow-ups. These are some of the first books that I ever read aloud to lovely spouse Harry. We read a lot of children's books together back when we started reading books together, so this is a very nostalgic series complete. I love these books. Next up we have the Autoline series by Chris Riddle. These are short middle grade books that he has written and illustrated himself. I absolutely love them, and I also love the Goth Girl series, but as you will be able to see from my spreadsheet, I haven't read the last book in the Autoline series or the last 2 books in the Goth Girl series. So both of them are going to be series ongoing. Oh, so the next series is the Folk of Air series by Holly Black. I read The Cruel Prince and I absolutely freaking hated it. That is a very cheerful series DNF for me. Oh, okay, so the next one up is the Chorus of Dragons series by Jen Lyons, which starts out with The Ruin of Kings. I read the first book, I think, at the end of last year, and it is the only book that I am going to be reading in this series. I am very sad about it. I really loved the concept of this world, and although I liked the writing and I liked the unusual setup for book 1, I am told that the writing and the setup for book 2 are virtually identical, so I'm reading kind of the same thing over again, and I know that's not going to hold my interest, so that is a DNF. As is the Fractured Fables series by Alex E. Harrow, because I do think there is a 3rd book in this little series to be confirmed. I read the Spindle Splintered and absolutely loved it, and then the Mirror Mended just had absolutely no idea what it was doing. It was like, okay, they want me to write more in this series, but I don't really know what to write, so this is what we're gonna do, and nope, not for me. And I know we're not doing very well, are we? Another not for me, another absolute series DNF is the Outlaws Scarlet and Brown series by Jonathan Stroud. This is devastating for me because this series is the most recent series from the person who wrote the Lockwood & Co books, and I was so hopeful. I kind of had no idea what was going on with the setting most of the time, and I generally don't think that Jonathan Stroud does either, if I'm honest. So that one is a really sad series DNF. Like, I'm actually gutted because I guess he's going to be writing this series for a while now, which means he won't be writing anything else new. So I guess Lockwood & Co is just going to have to be reread at some point instead. And the next one up, I've already seen it, is the Green Bone Saga by Fonda Lee. I DNF'd Jade City. I absolutely hated that book. It was so boring. I don't care about the mafia and gangs, and that's essentially what it was. I didn't really even care about the magic system in this world, and all of the characters, which are just thrown at you with name after name after name, were like so two-dimensional. I know a lot of you really, really love this series. I'm really sorry. It's just not for me. Oh, and then a really sad one. This is the Starfell series by Dominique Valente. A really powerful witch turns up on her doorstep and tells her that the Tuesday, I think it is, has gone missing and nobody has noticed, and it's like gonna start unraveling the fabric of the world, and she goes on an adventure and it's great and I loved it so much. And then I picked up Willow Moss and the Forgotten Tale and I was bored senseless. I was bored stiff. It had none of the charm that the first one did at all. Oh, yeah, I don't really even have much to say about this. This is the Cursebreaker series by Bridget Kemmerer. I think I have now unhauled that book. I'm sure I have. Oh, and then we've got Lord of the Rings. That's nice and nostalgic, and of course nice and complete. Oh yay! So next up we've got the Lore Olympus series by Rachel Smythe. I absolutely adore this series. It is just, oh, it's all of the good feels. It's just made me so happy. I'm so glad that I got past my like cynicism for it initially and picked it up. Yes, so I have read the series as of now. There are still, of course, 2 new volumes coming in 2023, which I'm very pleased about. And yeah, naturally you can read the webtoon if you want to, but it's just not the way that I like to consume my graphic novels. I kind of forget that the webtoon exists, and I really don't like staring at my iPad for that long. So I'm just going to quite happily follow along with the volumes as they get published in hardback instead. Next up, we've got Practical Magic. I read Practical Magic last year because you all told me that I had to read it, and because I was really excited because I love the movie so much, and it was awful. It was terrible. Ooh, this is shameful. Okay, so the next one that we've got is the Athena Club series, which starts with the Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, and I have not shut up about this series since I picked it up. However, I only this month finished European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman, and I still have the Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl to go. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like sad that I have books still to go in this series. I'm excited that I have books still to go in this series, but once I read that last book, the series will be over, and so that is why I have kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. I don't want it to end, but I also feel a vast amount of shame that I'm like, this is one of my favourite series ever, 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 and I haven't read the last book in it, so I'm torn. The next series up is the Monstrumologist series by Rick Yancey. I really love this series. It's actually an intensely creepy middle grade series. So I've read the first 2 books in the series, although I do actually own all 4 of them, so that's definitely series ongoing. Next up we have got the Girl with All the Gifts duology. So we have Girl with All the Gifts and then The Boy on the Bridge. This is another one that I have absolutely zero wish to read the second book in. It didn't need a second book. There's absolutely no reason for this world to have a follow-up whatsoever. The first book was perfect, like literally perfect, even though it was very sad. So I am going to mark this one, again, just like the Hunger Games, as a series complete, because as far as I am concerned, it is. Oh, and then next up we've got Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. Now, again, very much like The Girl with All the Gifts, I don't really feel like this world needed another book. And again, although I loved all of the characters in this world, I don't necessarily feel like I need more of them. So again, I think I'm going to mark this for me as series complete with the first book. I was fine with that. Next up we have got The Haunting of Aveline Jones series by Phil Hicks. You guys, I haven't talked about this series yet, but it is coming to a tops and bottoms video near you. I am absolutely and completely in love. I have read the first 2 books, then I have The Vanishing of Aveline Jones on my shelves, and then we have another book. It might have a title now, let me check. Okay, no, there isn't another book in this series yet. So I am going to say that this is a series ongoing. because I am definitely going to be finishing this and telling you all about it very soon. Okay, next up we have got the Her Majesty's Royal Coven series by Juno Dawson. I read and absolutely devoured Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and I don't know why that one is in yellow because it hasn't been published yet. I can't read The Shadow Cabinet yet because it's not out, otherwise I would have. So this one is going to be series complete as published. Oh guys, okay, so next up we have the Lock and Key series, which is a horror graphic novel series, and I love it. I really do. I have in fact watched the show of it and loved that also. However, I have still never read book 6. I never finished out the graphic novel series. Guys, I am so bad for this. When anything comes out in issues like this, I am so terrible at finishing these series. You will see this, I'm sure, by the end of the spreadsheet. I'm sure there's going to be another couple on here that I haven't read. So this is a very depressing series ongoing. Oh, here's a sad one. So next up I have the Enemy series by Charlie Higson. This is like a zombie apocalypse YA series, which absolutely should not be a YA series, and I absolutely loved the first 3 books in it. So the Enemy, the Dead and the Fear, and I had the Sacrifice and the Fallen on my shelf. But this series does go up to book 7, The End, which I think is a great name for the book, and I won't be carrying on with it all the way to the end because it kind of lost my interest. I got really invested in, even though I knew it was stupid because everybody dies. But yeah, I have unhauled it now. I won't be going back to it, and I'm really, really sad about it. Oh! Very fitting for today's outfit. Next up we've got the Jurassic Park series or universe or whatever by Michael Crichton. I have read and absolutely loved Jurassic Park, obviously, but although I own The Lost World, I have never actually got around to it, so this is definitely series ongoing. It's just not very high up on my priority list. Oh, so next up we have the Dr. Surrey series by Colin Cottrell. I picked this series up years ago, like years and years and years ago, because I was recommended it by a bookseller in Waterstones, I think. There was a lot wrong with the first book in this series, like a lot wrong, and even as I was entering like all of the books on this spreadsheet, I was like, why are you doing this? Because you're not going to read a single one of them. And sure enough, I am not going to read a single one of them. Oh no! The spreadsheet really is calling me out. Ugh. So next up is the Iron Folk series by Jane Harper. Y'all know Jane Harper. She is pretty much my favourite thriller author. I adore her. But I have not yet read Exiles, despite the fact that I have a proof of it. And now I have a finished copy of it sitting on my shelf, and I started a buddy read with my lovely friend Jill. Jill finished it, absolutely adored it. I just don't know what's wrong with me. I think I don't want this series to end, and I'm doing that really weird mental thing that I do where I'm like, oh, I'll keep this one for a rainy day. Whereas realistically what I should do is I should finish it and then I should reread the series on the rainy day when I need it. Ooh, oh no. Kirsty's gonna roast me for this, and so is lovely spouse Harry. This is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I have read the first 2 books in the series. I have not read the 3rd book. Harry has just finished it and he is absolutely desperate to talk to me about it. However, this is another one where my brain is like, you should just reread the whole series. And the problem with this is this is often what happens to me if I'm reading books as they're released. And it's not going to be a problem that goes away because I'm not ever going to only pick up backlist series. I am going to start new series as they come out, but the more books that come out in the series, the more I'm like, oh, you should reread the series for the next one coming out, and I can't do that all the time. I just don't have the capacity in my month to do it. The thing is, I have good reason to argue against that because I have a very, very good memory, so it's not like I've forgotten anything that's happened in Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Am I like this? Okay, so next up we have got Highway 59 by Attica Locke. Bluebird was great, I really enjoyed it, but I'm not going to read any more in it because I really am moving further and further and further away from detective fiction these days. I just honestly don't care, no matter how good the first book is. A lot of the time I'm like, I just don't need another one. I just don't need it. Haha, a sentiment which is in sharp contrast with the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson, which I love, with the burning passion of 1,000 Suns. However, I have read Truly Devious, The Vanishing Stair and The Hand on the Wall, and I have not read The Box in the Woods, even though we now also have 9 Liars. Because I am the way I am. There's no other reason for it. The first 4 books kind of finish the arc of Stevie being in high school, and then the next book, which is 9 Liars, carries on with Stevie in college. So I really do need to just finish up this series, or at least finish up the first 4 books, and then have the next sort of like arc to move on to. But I haven't done it yet because I am a trash human. Oh, next up we have the We Were Liars series. I finished this duology last year. I absolutely loved the second book in this series. You can't tell me nothing about it. I know that it's not perfect. I know there's a lot of things wrong with both books, but I don't care because the first one is so nostalgic and the second one just took me right back to that place that I was in when I read that first book. Oh, then next we have the Flavia de Luce series by Alan Bradley. So I have read the first 4 books in this series: Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, Weed That Strings the Hangman's Bag, A Red Herring Without Mustard, and I Am Half Sick of Shadows. But I have not read the next 3 which I have on my shelves. Yes, 3. I have not read the next 3 which I have on my shelves, and then there are a further 4 books in this series which I do not own. I do have a full intention of reading the next books that I physically own. I do want to finish the series that I actually physically have on my shelves. However, will I be reading all 11 books in the series? I love the Flavia de Luce universe, and I love Flavia de Luce herself. There's so much right with it, but it's one of those series where, like, after the first like 3 books or so, we were kind of doing the same pattern for each book, and while that works for me in some series like Poirot, where we're doing virtually the same pattern with different mysteries, it's not working for me as much anymore. I don't know whether I'm just moving away from that format of mystery book, or whether I've just had enough of the Flavia de Luce universe. So I'm going to say this is series ongoing until I have read the books that I own in this series, and then I think I'm just going to stop and give it a bye, as we say here in Scotland. Oh, annoying. Okay, so the next up is the Philip Marlowe series by Raymond Chandler. These are the sort of original LA noir detective novels. I love them a lot. But I kind of stalled after book 4, so I read The Big Sleep, Farewell My Lovely, The High Window, and then The Lady in the Lake, and I still have The Little Sister, The Long Goodbye, which is the most famous one of the Philip Marlowe series, Playback, Trouble Is My Business, and then Killers in the Rain is a short story collection, I think, wherein one of the stories is a Marlowe mystery. I'm not sure. Again, I have it on my shelf. So I will get to these. This is a series ongoing for me, but I haven't picked them up in a good while, so maybe they could do with a reread to remind me what's going on. Next up, this is deeply ironic, we have Black Sad. Black Sad is actually a graphic novel collection which is inspired by the Philip Marlowe books and the sort of noir genre in general. I really like the original trilogy, which is Black Sad, A Silent Hell, and Amarillo. However, they have just started the series again, and while I was initially so excited for it, I was so happy that they were bringing this series back, because I felt like 3 books just weren't enough. I then discovered it is the thinnest hardback graphic novel that you've ever seen in your life. It's seriously just 1 issue in a hardback bind up, and it's so expensive, and there's going to be another one, and then I think there's going to be more in the series after that. And so although I am so very excited for the idea of more books in this world, I think right now genuinely, this is gonna have to be a series DNF. It's so expensive and I read them so fast and I just don't think I can justify it right now. Okay, so here are two back to back that we can run over very quickly, and I wish I could actually run over the books because they were awful. The first is the Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. If I've said it once, I've said it again. If you've got a character who is sarcastic and has a chip on their shoulder, I don't just want that to be the only thing that they are throughout the entire series. I don't want it only to be anger and depression every single page. It's boring. And then we have the Full Society books by Ian Moore, which starts with Death and Croissants. Harry and I picked this up in a bookshop. And this is proof, absolute proof, that more people look at the first chapter in a book than looks at the rest of the book, because the first chapter of this book was amazingly written and every single chapter after that was awful. I had absolutely no idea what was going on in some bits, and for such a short, like, mystery novel, I should not have been that confused. And also, none of the decisions that any of the characters made any sense. So this is a cheerful DNF for me. I hated both of these. Oh, next up, okay, next up is the Goldie Vance graphic novel series by Hope Larson and Brittany Williams. So the Goldie Vance series is, again, kind of like very noir-y. And it's queer and it's fun and frolicky. I read the first volume of this on Scribd. While I loved the first volume a lot, it's another one where I'm like, I don't necessarily know if I need any more. And so for right now, it's going to be a series DNF for me. Next up, we have got the Every series by Ellie Marney, which is a series that I absolutely adore. I read it years and years ago, but it lives in my head rent-free. I think about it a lot. It's kind of loose Sherlock Holmes and Watson retelling. However, there are the original 3 books in the trilogy, Every Breath, Every Word and Every Move, and then there is a companion book, No Limits, and I have absolutely no wish to revisit that series with another book. I think the original trilogy was perfect, so I'm going to mark that as not DNF, as series complete. Oh, no. Next up, there's the Miss Marple series by Agatha Christie. Okay, so unlike the Poirot series by Agatha Christie, which I had read most of already, albeit very out of order when I was younger, the Miss Marple series was a series that I hadn't actually visited until I was an adult, and now it's actually my favourite thing that Agatha Christie has ever written. However, I love it so much. So much that I am absolutely devastated by the thought of it ending, and so I have not read Nemesis, Sleeping Murder and Miss Marple's Final Cases, which is a short story collection. I think I haven't read them yet. I am going to read them. I've started Nemesis so many times, but I am so devastated by the idea of not having Miss Marple in my life as new books to read, that I literally haven't been able to make myself do it. So I'll get there eventually, but now is not that time. Ugh, next up we have got Sweet Pea. Do you know, this makes me so annoyed because I love the first book in this series so much, and I talked about it so very much when it first came out. Like, I literally made everybody read it. It didn't need a sequel, and it certainly didn't need a series, and honestly, In Bloom annoyed me so much that I just ended up, like, I started Deadhead and I was like, nah, I can't, and I unhauled it. I'm so annoyed that this has a series. It doesn't need a series. Oh, and next up we have the Lockwood & Co series by Jonathan Stroud. I can just complete this one off. You guys don't need a spiel about it. You know that I have read it and read it and read it and read it and read it, and that I absolutely love it. Wow, guys, I feel like we have been here for days. Only the spreadsheet nerds are left amongst us. So the next series that I've got is a bit of a shameful series for me as well. This is The Diviners by Liva Bray. I have read The Diviners and Lair of Dreams, but I have only read half of Before the Devil Breaks You, and I have not touched King of Crows. So this one is a series ongoing for me. I Again, I absolutely love the books that I've read in this series, and I'm not really sure what it is that keeps me from finishing it, but I just haven't made myself go back. Oh, then we have the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo. So I read Ninth House last year, not just once but twice, because I enjoyed it so much. It is one of only 2 books that I have done that with in the last couple of years. I have Hellbent on my shelf downstairs. I haven't got to it yet. Then we have got Sheets by Brenna Thumler. This is a middle grade YA, I'm not really sure where to categorise this, graphic novel series about a ghost. The first one, Sheets, is amazing. The second one, Delicates, is lovely, but I didn't realise that we were getting another one in this series, and once again I don't really think that I need it, so I think I'm going to mark this for me as series complete, because I think I've had enough in this universe. Similarly, the Anita Blake series by Laurel K. Hamilton. I don't know if I've ever talked about this series on my channel, because it was one of those series that I read so many years ago, and quite honestly I hung in there way past the point where I should have. So I read all the way up until book 11, which is Cerulean Sins, and I tapped out. I tapped out at the start of that book. I just could not do it. It was too ridiculous. And the series has now gone up to, in fact, I can't even get you to the end of my spreadsheet because of the way that I'm recording, but the series has gone up to book 23, which is the last available slot in my spreadsheet. I don't even know if I would reread this series in a honest, serious way. I don't know if I would actually ever pick up these books again, because there's just so much wrong with them. There's so much wrong with them, but they are very nostalgic for me, and I do still have them double stacked on my bookshelves. Oh, similarly, next up we have the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. Now, at the time that I filled in this spreadsheet originally, I had not yet read Shadow of Night, which is the second book. However, I have now read Shadow of Night, and I really wish that I hadn't. I have unhauled all of the books in this series now, because even the first book, which I actually really enjoyed, I don't want to look at anymore after Shadow of Night. Let's move on. The next one is the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. Now, I have read a lot of books in the Vampire Chronicles. I have read all the way up until Prince Lestat, so I only have these 3 left. Prince Lestat, and the Realms of Atlantis, and Blood Communion. And I think it's fair to say that if I reread this series, it will not be as far up through the series as I originally read. I don't think I'd get past Blood and Gold if I read it again. I really don't. So I'm going to mark this as series complete for me, because I've had enough of it. Yeah, I'll do that with the Anita Blake series, because it's you know, keep reading it if you like, but it's not, no. I won't be. Oh, okay, this is an interesting one. The Magnolia Parks universe by Jessa Hastings. This is kind of like an anti-romance series. I really enjoyed parts of Magnolia Park, and I really hated other parts of it, and I hated BJ. I hated the love interest, guys. I hated him so very much. When I said that I hated him though, everybody urged me carry on to Daisy Hates and give it another try, because it gets better, and the things that I didn't like in the first one are kind of undone in the second one. Okay, I'm gonna mark it as series as ongoing. I'm not done with it. I can't give it up yet. I love Jessa Hastings' writing too much, and I love the world that she created too much. That being said, Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. So I have read volumes 1 through 4, and volume 5 isn't out yet, so that's the wrong colour for a start. I have read Solitaire, which is where the characters originated, and Nick and Charlie in this winter, which are novellas in the world of Solitaire. I am going to mark this as series complete published, because I probably will read the last one, but I am here to give you the controversial opinion, my guys, that I hated volume 4. I literally hated it. The whole going on holiday thing I really didn't like it. It made me really annoyed, like really, really annoyed, and I'll read volume 5 because it's the last one, but if there was going to be another like 4 or 5 volumes after it, I would have DNF'd the series. The next series I've got is the Brown Sisters series. I really liked the first 2 books. I own all of them, but I have not finished the series, so I will pick up At Your Age, Eve Brown at some point. The next one is the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare, a series which I am, unlike the Brown Sisters series, much more invested in. The Duchess Deal is one of my favourite books in the entire world. The Governess Game was great. I haven't read The Wallflower Wager only because we still don't have The Bride Bet, which is the last book in the series. I know how many times have we said it in this spreadsheet, but I really don't want to read the last book before the last book has been published. So this is series ongoing for me. Okay, we're nearly at the end. We're nearly there, guys. I can see the bottom of the spreadsheet. Next up, we have got the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers. Of course, you guys know that I love this series. I love it so very much. Both of our snakes are named after things from this series. However, I have only read The Long Way to the Small Angry Planet and A Closed and Common Orbit. I haven't ever finished Record of a Spaceborne Few. I have picked it up many times, but I have never actually got to the end of it yet, which means that I have not got to the Galaxy in the Ground Within. Next up is the Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. As I said to you guys at the start of this, I absolutely love this series. It's one of my favourite series in the entire world. And actually, I just noticed from my spreadsheet that I have done myself out of a book here because there was like a little novella that came out at the end of this, and I have read that too. I would like the credit, please. Thank you. Oh, although next up I have the Aurora Cycle, also by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and I have read Aurora Rising and Aurora Burning, but I never ever got around to Aurora's End. It is on my shelf. I don't love this trilogy as much as I love the Illuminae Files, so I will get to this one, but again, it's not really high up there on my priority list. Next up, like I said, I'm really bad at things that come out in single volumes. We've got Alex and Ada by Jonathan Luna and Sarah Vaughan. I've read volume 1, I've got volume 2 on my shelf. Am I ever going to buy and read volume 3? Probably not. Look, let's just cut our losses, guys. Let's just cut our losses and say we are not doing it. Morning Glories, on the other hand, Morning Glories suffers from the same problem that Lock and Key does, because look, guys, I own these. I just haven't read them. There's absolutely no excuse for this whatsoever. This one should be on my priority reads list because I read that first like 5 or 6 volumes so long ago. It's disgusting. Here are 3 or 4. Actually, look, there's, oh no, 5. Oh, there's 5 together. There's 5 in a cluster. Okay, let's rapidly go through these. Chilling Effect, the synopsis was much better than the actual book that was delivered. I loved the world setting. I hated the plot, hated it, and the characters just kind of got lost in it and weren't what I hoped they were going to be. Girl with Sharp Sticks was just boring. I'd seen it done before and it had been done better. Codename Villanelle was suffered from being written by a man. The Stillhouse Lake series is one of my favourite thriller series of all time. Sequel Kilman Creek was lovely. I loved getting to see more of the effects on the circumstances on her children, but it was more sort of like from a nostalgic perspective of me because I loved Stillhouse Lake so much. I read Wolf Hunter River. It was fine, but I could tell where I was going with this, and I hated Bitter Falls and I DNF'd it. I hated it and I did not bother picking up the next 2. So actually no, not DNF, series complete, because I've read as much of it as I want to read. On the other hand, if you love thrillers and mysteries, I don't think you should read this book because I don't think it's very good. I really didn't like Blue Monday. I did not understand why Frida Klein was so incredibly angry at the world and standoffish and prickly, and just, she was vile to some people. She broke patient confidentiality. The plot was very convenient. I didn't care about it. So yeah, this is a series DNF. Rivers of London. So Rivers of London is one of my favourite urban fantasy series in the world. I think that it does a hell of a lot of things right. I think that if you didn't enjoy some aspects of the first book, those are mostly fixed and worked on. False Value is on my shelves and I am not going to be picking up amongst our weapons for a couple of reasons. First of all, the arc that was completed with the first 5 books should have just been left there, but instead it was kind of resolved and then extended. Like the arc finished, but then we got another arc that was kind of just related to the first. And I didn't want that. I wanted a whole new arc for the next books. Secondly, Ben Aronovich has started to produce comics, which I am just going to nip down to at the bottom of this spreadsheet because you'll see them here. These are the Rivers of London graphic novels. There is a lot of them. I finished at book 7. I think I have Faye and the Furious on my shelves, but I doubt I'm going to read it. And then there is these 2 after it that I'm definitely not picking up. And the reason that I'm so furious about this series and that I have ended up saying I'm not doing any more periods no matter what is because Ben Aronovich has started to insert content from the graphic novels into the novels. So I was reading one of the novels and then it referred to something and I was like, I don't remember that. What is it talking about? And it was an event that happened in the graphic novels. The graphic novels were marketed as being like short stories, as being little like prequel bits, as being little like insights into scenes that you were told about in the books but you didn't actually get to see all the way through. And that's not what they are. That's maybe what the first couple were, but it's certainly not what the rest are. The rest are brand new stories that are being interwoven, and now you have to read the graphic novels if you want to understand the novels, and that's just so not okay. It's such a cash grab. Lovely spouse Harry reads the novels on audiobook and is never going to pick up the graphic novels, just has no interest in slogging through them, and now there's going to be bits in there that he's going to be confused about because they come from the graphic novels, and it just smacks of please give me more money, and I really hate it. Rivers of London is going to be a series complete for me up until the point that I've read, because I'm not reading anymore, and the graphic novel series is going to be a DNF for me, and I'm going to be unhauling the graphic novel series because I'm so angry about this whole thing. Mercy Thompson series, on the other hand, an urban fantasy series that I am still absolutely loving. I am not completely caught up on it yet, but it does not matter because I am just ambling my way through this series. I enjoy that because it just comes out whenever it comes out and I pick it up and I'm like, oh yay, another one. So yeah, that one is just going to be a series ongoing. On the other hand, Alpha and Omega is a spin-off series, we're sensing a theme here, is a spin-off series from the Mercy Thompson series. I have read the first 3, which is Crywolf, Hunting Ground and Fair Game, and there are another 3 after it. Dead Heat I have on my shelves. I've just realised I've got Mercy Thompson in here instead of Patricia Briggs. It is a good series. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't need it. There's no content in it that I'm like, yay, I'm really excited to pick it up. It's just characters from the original series kind of doing their thing, and that's fine if you are obsessed with the original series enough that you need more of it. I just enjoy the original series, so I don't need more. Ooh, then we've got the White Cat series by Holly Black. This is a completed series. I really, really enjoyed this. Absolutely no wish and desire to pick up anything else that she's written after it. Next up, I have the Parasol Protectorate series by Gail Carriger. Again, this is a series that I have read all of and absolutely freaking adored. It's one of my favourite series ever. Next up, I have got the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. This is again a series that I absolutely adore. Samantha Shannon is more and more becoming one of my favourite authors. I'm super excited for the fact that she has a Greek Myth standalone that's been purchased, and I love the fact that there is going to be more in the Roots of Chaos series as well, so it makes me very happy. So for the Bone Season, I have read up until the Mime Order, and I still have the Song Rising and the Mask Falling to read, and then of course there are more which haven't been published yet in the series. It is definitely ongoing, so this is an ongoing series for me. We have the Roots of Chaos series, so again, at the time that I created this spreadsheet, A Day of Fallen Night was not yet out. It is now out, so I have not read it. I am rereading Priory at the moment, and I'm going to go straight on to A Day of Fallen Night. So this is a series ongoing, but soon to be finished. Then, as discussed previously, we have the Wayward Children series by Sean Maguire, and as discussed previously, this series is like 11 to 8 million books long. I have not got to the end of it yet. There is a new book that has just come out, which I have still to read. So that is a series ongoing, and to be honest, I'm quite happy if Sean Maguire just keeps publishing very short, very expensive books in this series forever, because I love it. And yeah. And then finally we have T. Kingfisher with the Sworn Soldier series. Now, this has only just been announced. We've got What Moves the Dead, and we have another book, the name of which I can't remember. Let me look. Okay, so it's going to be called What Feasts at Night. Apparently I can't type. Oh my god. I loved What Moves the Dead. I'm very surprised that this has been turned into a series, because again, I'm not necessarily sure that we need a sequel. Do I need another one? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, this is a series complete published for me, because I have read the first one and we don't have the second one yet. And that's it, guys. We are finally finished. Wow, we went through all 94, 95 series. That was a lot. That was a real lot. Now, let's just have a little look, just to finish this video off and be satisfied. Let's have a little look at how many series complete we have now. Oh, I coloured that one the wrong way. Okay, so now we have marked 21 series as series complete. We have... oh, that's not too bad. We have 9 series which are series complete as of being published. Then we have marked a lot of series as DNF. So we have 29 series which we have DNF'd. That's quite good actually. I'm very pleased about that, to be honest. Series ongoing. Of course that's what's left. Okay. So ongoing series, oh yikes, 35 ongoing series. Okay, to be fair, that's not actually as bad as I thought. We have dumped so many series, like so many series. That has halved that list. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am. I'm very tired. That was a lot of talking. That was a really long video. I don't know what this is going to edit down to. I feel like you're going to really love this video if you love spreadsheets and if you love seeing other people be in pain, but I don't know if this is going to be the video for everybody. Thank you for coming along on this journey with me, guys, and finding out exactly what we need to get through to make this number get bigger, because really this is what all of this was in aid of. I really want to finish more series this year. I don't want to have this number be this large at the end of the year, so this needs to get completed off. My bingo needs to get completed off, but I would like to not just complete it off once, I would like to complete it off twice by the end of the year. So that's my secret ambition that I'm just telling you, just you and me. That's what I'm saying. We'll see if that ends up being reality. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. It's been a very different video for me, but it was very satisfying. So if you did enjoy it, we might revisit this later on in the year once I have hopefully completed off more books. If you made it all the way through that video, then leave me the little lightning emoji down below. Not just because Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief was actually a completed series on that spreadsheet, but also because I feel like that is what we have done. I feel like we have struck this entire spreadsheet with a bolt of lightning and have burned half of it to the ground, and I'm so I'm so pleased. If you are new to my channel, I will be very surprised if this was the first video that you chose, but if it was and you enjoyed it and you want to see exactly how many of these series I do finish, then please hit that subscribe button down below. And if you are a frequent flyer on my channel and you have enjoyed this video and watching my statistics in action, then please hit that thumbs up because it really does help my channel. And I will see you guys really soon. Bye!